Amateurs talk tactics. Professionals study logistics. Well, for the sake of the former Ayatollah's country, Iran right now had better be studying logistics, because it is tackling perhaps the most difficult logistical problem in modern warfare. It is a problem that the United States has avoided at least thus far in the war, but it is something that is certainly on the horizon if a war with, say, China is in the cards. And it is definitely something that Ukraine encounters on a regular basis now, plus something that Europe must worry that it will one day face against Russia. Surprisingly, I am not talking about metal. I am talking about medicine. Let's imagine that you are in the middle of a large battle. Actually, if you are Iran, you do not have to imagine it. You are living it now. With virtually no effective air defenses, you are looking at hundreds of casualties all coming in at the same time. The decisions that are made over the next few minutes are literally matters of life and death. On the surface, this may sound like a basic triage problem, something that your average field hospital or civilian hospital confronts on a regular basis. However, on the modern battlefield, this is a network problem. Previously, you might only be able to send someone to a specific field hospital, or maybe there was a civilian hospital nearby that you could send stable patients to as well. In the modern era, though, medical transportation is good enough that it unlocks a huge number of hospitals. Each hospital has a different medical specialty. Each is a different distance from the battlefield. And there are a limited number of ambulances, helicopters, and planes that you can use to transport the wounded. When you have only 2 wounded soldiers, say a punctured lung and blood hemorrhaging, and 2 open beds, each at a different hospital, one that has a pulmonary department and one that is a general practice, the problem is simple. Send the lung problem to the lung hospital and the blood problem to the other. This is roughly the scale of the United States' dilemma at the moment. As I write this, 3 U.S. fatalities have been reported. Even with an extreme 10-to-1 wounded-to fatality ratio, that is still only 30 people who need medical attention. Throwback to that video I did on the Golden Hour a few weeks ago. But handling 30 people still does not create much of a dilemma. It is the type of problem that you can solve with pen and paper if it came to it. Ukraine right now? Well, the problem is getting more complicated. Russia right now? Okay, at this point, pen and paper will struggle mightily, assuming that they have enough hospital beds to make for a meaningful allocation problem at all. But Iran right now? Oh boy. You see, the problem becomes exponentially more complicated as you introduce further injuries. Then introduce varying distances to hospitals. Then add trade-offs like catastrophic blood loss putting this soldier in critical condition, and thus making the closer hospital appear tempting. But then sending him there takes away a bed for someone who needs to see the lung specialist at that hospital. Allocate your resources correctly, and the critically wounded find their way to refuge and have a good chance of survival. Allocate your resources incorrectly, and some hospitals get overwhelmed while others get bored. People die purely due to a poor allocation decision. Wars, of course, are full of difficult allocation decisions. What makes this one unique, however, is the timing. For your average logistical problems, planners can think about solutions for at least a few hours, if not days or weeks. But when the subject is war-wounded, sitting there and thinking about it is a good way to watch a bunch of people die. Because the complexity grows exponentially, the problem is too big for one person to handle on their own. You cannot break up the problem across many people either, because of the connected network nature of the problem. You cannot have many people work as a team, as they would waste too much time trying to coordinate. The response has to be automated. For Iran, it is a little bit too late to be developing a solution. But as I said at the beginning, this problem is at the forefront of allied minds within the battlefield medicine industry. Because one major war against China or Russia, and the casualties are going to be well above 3. Better handle the problem before it becomes an emergency. And the solution may be being developed right in here. Yep, last week in the before times, I went to the airport, got on a plane, landed at another airport, got on another plane, landed in Reykjavik, Iceland, and then drove to the University of Iceland, site of this year's TIDE Hackathon, an event run by NATO ACT. Yikes, sorry about that alphabet soup. You already know about NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. If you watch this channel enough, you probably know that ACT is Allied Command Transformation, the Norfolk, Virginia headquartered innovation branch of the alliance. TIDE is a backronym for Technology for Information and Decision Execution Superiority. Basically, the main problem for an alliance with 32 members is that you have 32 militaries with 32 unique ways of doing business. TIDE events highlight a few current problem areas and then seek innovative solutions from allies, industry, and partners. And by partners, yes, I mean countries outside of the alliance, like Ukraine. Indeed, almost a decade ago, a Ukrainian team won the annual hackathon by developing the Delta Situational Awareness System. Delta would become Ukraine's command and control system after the invasion began, and it has been pivotal in denying Russia a quick end to the special military operation. This year's hackathon had 3 competitions, each with the theme of how to take a mountain of data and turn it into something actionable. The first focused on how to respond to cyber intrusions. The second was informed targeting when allies must collectively work against multiple threats that could cross borders. They did not realize the impending relevance at the time, but this is exactly the type of issue that the various US partners in the Middle East are currently confronting. We have also discussed that before in the context of drone threats on both sides of the Atlantic, and I am sure that you will hear about that from me again. However, the third challenge, and the one that we are focusing on today, was the creation of a digital health web decision support tool.
So in all this complex situation of dealing with medical logistics, we need to have to face a lot of patients. So we have this sense of urgency because this is a question of life and death. And so we pose this problem to these people in the hackathon, and they produce great solutions.
That was Christophe Albert, a medical subject matter expert at NATO's Allied Command Transformation. He was one of the advisors that competitors could approach with technical questions as they arose, because the competition was indeed about to get technical. Given how the task grows exponentially more complicated with every additional input, each team had to develop an AI decision support tool that connects NATO's medical network and provides real-time visibility of multinational medical capabilities and availability. I think that it has been easy to miss just how much AI has become integrated into militaries around the world, outside of onboard targeting guidance. Indeed, countries are using AI in areas ranging from operational decisions in Ukraine to long-term planning in NATO. The dispute between the Pentagon and Anthropic, for example, has serious implications. This is not just about bureaucrats in Virginia trying to more quickly write an email. In fact, the first time that I became convinced of the utility of LLMs for military applications was when someone noted that NATO has a gazillion formalized coordination standards. It is literally impossible for someone to memorize all of them. However, if you break one, it will cause headaches for someone down the line. LLMs are good at processing a new policy or technology under development and then flagging potential coordination standards to the team. It is a night and day difference. Just think about what happens when you ask a complicated question to a standard search engine instead of an AI tool. Actually, the winner of the TIDE Hackathon a couple of years ago was a tool called Panacea, also from a Ukrainian group. Let that sink in for a second, especially at a time when drones are flying all around the Middle East and countries are looking for expertise in how to shoot them down. Anyway, Panacea is a natural language thesaurus for medical drugs. Countries have a nasty tendency to have different names for the same drug, and it is possible that a single wounded soldier will go through multiple countries during treatment. Panacea solved the interoperability problem by quickly translating the patient's history. It can also output drug information into any country's standards. You can understand Ukraine's desire to develop the tool. At the start of the invasion, something like 100 countries donated their excess medical supplies, leaving Ukrainian doctors the problem of understanding what any of it was. Back in Reykjavik, for 4 days, the teams hunkered down inside a building at the University of Iceland. Not that they had much of a desire to go outside. A blizzard was coming through, making even my 1.5-kilometer walk to and from my hotel a bit of an extreme sport. At the end of the 4th day, the teams were cut down to 3 finalists, who made capstone presentations the following morning. The winner of the medical competition was a Dutch team called Bites on the Ground. Every team's solution had similar elements. At its core, the logistical nightmare is just a complicated math problem. If you assign some decision rules, you could have an ordinary computer program attempt to solve the problem, and it would probably be more efficient than any human could be. The upshot of AI is that it can think creatively about the issues at hand, including trying to cover, for example, medical situations not directly programmed into a decision tree. Lest we forget that the fog of war is chaos, and it is prohibitively difficult to pre-program a solution to every preconceived problem, never mind the problems that are not preconceived. Bites on the Ground believed that 3 critical elements of their tool put them over the top. 1. It keeps humans in the loop. A person still has to accept or override each recommendation. Human overrides teach the tool that it is making mistakes. Mistakes that might not be obvious to the person who originally set the decision rules, but may be logically implied by those decision rules. The tool can then try to adjust so it does not replicate those same problems in the future. Second, the tool deliberately reduces what decision makers can see. For example, a commander might observe the total number of beds still available, but the interface might omit finer-grained information about which hospitals with which specialties. That type of information is still available, of course. It is just better not to overwhelm a decision maker with all of the information all at once. Finally, the tool prompts traditional mapping programs to handle the actual routing. AI models still have a nasty tendency to hallucinate there. What happens next with the tool? Well, that is up to the individual allies to decide. TIDE Hackathons act as showcases of what is possible. Each allied country decides what to do next. If one or more sees the promise of a given tool, then they may elect to develop it further. Another possibility is that certain allies found another team's tool to have more promise and will thus pursue a partnership with them instead. One thing is clear, though. This logistical problem is not about to go away. It is present on the battlefield in Ukraine. It is present in civilian attacks on Ukrainian cities. It is present in unexpected attacks on countries not currently at war. If Russia ever storms across the eastern flank border, it will be the difference between life and death there too. You can also add a potential Indo-Pacific conflict to the list. And that is just the allies and partner countries. It does not even scratch the surface of Iran's problem right now. Certainly it is a major problem there, though understanding the true scale is difficult because we outsiders can hardly observe anything that is happening on the ground there. In any case, the allies understand the gravity of the situation and are looking to be proactive about it. Again, better to have a solution to the problem before you need the solution right now. And I suspect that given how the world has become one step less secure over the weekend, more allies will be inclined to make an investment. If you want to learn more about what is happening in the Middle East or how NATO is organized, I have entire playlists on both of those subjects. Check them out here. And if you enjoyed today's video, then please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Take care, and do not trust automatic doors.